And there perhaps lies where the problem with people trying to identify partners, where you're not having sex with your best friends, so you're able to identify a relationship and what you like and don't like in this person, and over time you get to build this relationship. Whereas if you end up just hooking up with someone after a few dates and you're like, oh, sex with this person's fun because, hey, sex is fun,
right?
And then you end up in these chemical relationships over time, and then you're like, well, the sex is fun, so let's go do another thing. But then the idea of who they are as a person becomes a bit secondary, and then 6 months later, 2 years later, 20 years later, people are like, oh, this is not good.
Yeah. It's almost never 20 years later, by the way. It's usually like more like a year or two later. I have one friend that said she was in that high for 5 years. Like, I had never heard of that before. Like a 5-year high. She said, just now with our second child,
yikes,
now we're coming to like, okay, this is real life. But that's exceptional,
Right. And sorry, do you mean that like the real life part is not good, or like it's still good, but
no,
it's not
the real life part is really the only way to true love.
Right, but just your example, I was wondering if you're using the example that after like the euphoria of 5 years and 2 kids, like, are they finding a place of contentment, or are they finding like?
Yes, they are.
Okay,
They are.
Because that's great. I was saying that, like, sometimes perhaps if you're in this high of chemistry, that maybe it's not the connection that's going to sustain you. Are you seeing that as well?
Oh no, for sure. Like if what you have primarily is that like fire, right? And by the way, that's like one of the best feelings in the entire world. I know, right? I get it. It's intoxicating. But if that's really, let's just even say 60-70% of your relationship, it's not usually a good sign, because we're blinded by that rush of dopamine. When we're in that state, that euphoria, it's very hard for us to see the red flags.
Right. Yeah, because I guess you're taking all that dopamine and all that validation and all that attention, and you're like, well, whatever. Who cares if they don't believe in the Holocaust?
Yeah,
whatever.
Exactly.
It's fine.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah.